Okay, so we've done the database design lab, and now we're going to move into the database lab down here at the bottom. I have two to show you today. Okay. I'm going to show you the relational one first, but I want to open up the MongoDB one and explain that real quick, okay? It's advanced, but if you can follow directions, you can probably do this one, because I have taken screenshots of every single step in the process. So if you can follow directions and reasonably realize that what my password is not going to be your password, you're going to have to look on the screen to see what yours is. If you can figure that level of detail out, which I'm sure most of you can, then you can probably take care of this one, and it's a fun one to do, okay? Because does anybody collect anything in this class? Anything, okay? I don't care what do you mind sharing what you collect? Sport jerseys, okay? Let's just say you've accumulated, you're 20 years from now, you've accumulated 10,000 sports jerseys, right? How do you keep track of them? Well, you could use a database like this to keep track of them by team, by person, by number, however you want. So this lab will actually show you how to do things like that, where you can create collections of information. So everything is screenshotted. I went through this one, and I don't think it's all that difficult. And I asked folks who are not technical, okay, and they told me that this was easy to do, okay? But I don't want anybody to be scared off by it because it has advanced. So I'm gonna tell you that you could probably do it, but if you get stumped, you can abandon it and do something easier if you want. But it's kind of a fun database to set up, because then you'll have this database that's free, and you can use it or you can just let it go, right, if you don't want it anymore, okay? It's using a non-relational database. And where these are kind of cool is you can have everything about a particular system in one place, one document. You don't have tables. There's no concept of tables in this particular type of database. Okay, it's not a relational. So if you go through this lab, you can actually see an example down here. Where I create everything here. Here's all the data, right? But I create it and it's a document. So it's basically just like having it in a single Word document. Everything about this particular animal. It's an animal database. Every animal, everything about that animal is in a separate document in the database. So if I'm creating a database on, I think it was pets, okay? I have one called Grumpy Cat, okay? It's a cat. Its scientific name is Felis catus, okay? It's a mammal, but it's not a reptile, okay? It's a ragdoll breed and it's H7. All this information of different data types can be in one record, okay? Now, the benefit of this type of database versus the one I just showed you with tables is, who cares about the design? The design can change, it's not an issue. If we decide that we're going to create a new classification of animals in the future, and now we're not just going to go down to the breed, it's based on a microscopic level, there's some differentiator between them, we can add that in here. It doesn't change our data in any way. It just adds those fields. We don't have to go back and fix all our old data. We can just start adding it to the new. It has no impact. That's one of the biggest benefits of this type of database, okay? It's very flexible. So when you don't know what the data needs to look like, you're not sure, this type of database is perfect for that, okay? But in this example, you're gonna go through and you're gonna create a few different animals in the database, okay? And then when you do that, you can do some really cool visual, at least I think they're cool. Oops. Yeah. Visual searches. So you're not limited to running queries, because this type of database doesn't use SQL. It's all driven by an interface that you install, a piece of software you install on your computer. Okay? Now, I will say this one, there's one challenge here at this campus. Okay? We don't have this system that allows you to just log in and do labs. We don't have that capability here. So the only way you can do this database, this particular lab, is if you either have a Windows or a Mac computer of your own. It can be a desktop, it can be a laptop. Tablet might even work as well, but I don't know. I think it has to be a Windows tablet to work. Okay. You cannot do this one on the lab computers here. You won't be able to do it on the laptops that you check out, okay? Because you have to actually install a piece of software to do it. Okay. But it is a very interesting way, because you can not only query the data using this Google-like search function to gather information about things, like show me only the cats that are grumpy, that sort of thing, okay? But you can also drill into the data from a visual perspective and look at it right there of, I click on this and I say, I only want to see where mammal equals true. And then I will only see data that's a mammal, okay? I can then say, I only want to see this particular type of scientific name, and I only see that. It's all visual, okay, which makes it very easy and approachable for anybody to use, okay? So if you do want to be brave and try it out, this lab, for me, I've done it before, obviously. This one took me 15 minutes to do, okay? I would say that my guideline for students is this lab shouldn't take you more than an hour, okay? Some of the other advanced labs might take you a lot longer. So my rule of thumb is if you're really not sure and you want to try something more advanced, if it's starting to take you more than an hour, you might want to reevaluate doing a different lab that's a little easier, okay? Unless you're an IS major. Is anybody here an IS or IT major? Okay, if you are, you should try the advanced labs because you're going to have to do them in my classes and other classes in the future anyways. So you better do it in this class where it's just credit or no credit rather than one that actually counts for points, like where it's based on the correctness, okay? So that's the lab for the non-relational database, and I do think it's a very fun lab. Now, there is one here for relational database, and that's not it. Oh gosh, it's at the very bottom here. Okay, this one is very complicated. Okay, I don't have screenshots for every single step because it varies depending on how you actually do it. Okay, but I've got a lot of examples in here. So in this lab, you will go through and you're going to create a database environment of your own. Now, how many of you have seen out in iLearn the Google Cloud stuff that I put out there, the coupon codes? Okay. I think a couple people had issues where it was asking for a credit card. If you're trying to do that, abandon ship, okay? Abandon ship if you try and it tells you want a credit card. You need to come see me during office hours. I will have group office hours again next Friday. So I'll be on campus. I have to leave right after this class. I have a family emergency. So I won't be here today, but I'll be here Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Friday group session. If a lot of you are having issues with that, just come and I will show you how to do it, okay? The Google Cloud instructions are that you have to redeem a coupon code, okay? And the coupon code is just a series of letters and numbers, and it's uniquely generated for you. So when you follow those instructions on the iLearn, it'll ask you for your school email. If you put in some other email address, you'll actually not get anything back. I don't even think it will contact you. I think it'll just ignore your request, okay? Use your school email. It needs to be I think it has to be your @UCR one, okay? Some of you may know that you have two email addresses here. It's the netid @UCR one that you have to use, okay? It might work with the email, the longer one @email.ucr, but I don't know, okay? You submit your email address and your name, you'll get an email confirming that you requested a code. As soon as you click on that email, within minutes, you'll get another email with the actual code. There's a link in there that you click on, okay? Very important. You should probably do that with your school email. Click on the link when you're logged in with your school email, not your personal, okay? Just because I don't know whether you've got a credit card already on file for your regular Google or not. Some people buy things through Google, okay? So use your school email. You can always open a private browser session in whatever browser you use, and then launch the code. If you're not sure you can handle this, it's okay. Normally I do it in class, but with this many people, it's too hard to do in class. Okay, so we'll do this in office hours if you have an issue. Once you've done all that, then you can start following these instructions. You have two choices. Number one is the vendor is always going to update their own instructions more frequently than I can. Okay, I can't keep up with it if they change something. So my recommendation is to just use their approach to go through the process. The disadvantage is I'm not writing the instructions, so they may not be as clear to you. If that's an issue, I've written instructions here with screenshots, okay? But they may not be up to date because things change in technology. So you can start going through option B, which I've gone and done screenshots, and then you might say, hey, this doesn't work. I have to go back and start with option A, okay? Either way is fine. But what you do is you're creating a database server, okay? And you go through and you actually create a database management system using what's called MariaDB in this lab. Okay, MariaDB is one of the free ones, okay? And then once you get it set up using Google, what will happen is, by the way, the credits actually, it's $50, okay? And $50 will last you at least a year, and then what happens is if you haven't put a credit card on file, they just close your account. So it's, yeah. So they'll probably say, oh, put a credit card on file because it'll run out. Don't worry about it, just don't do it, okay? $50 credit, my students usually last them at least a year. Some students it lasts them It's less than 2 years. Okay, so just depends on if you leave this running. When you're done with the labs, I always recommend that if you're done with it, you delete it. And there's instructions at the bottom of how to delete it. Okay, if you leave it up, it'll just deplete that free credit until you have no more credit anymore. Okay, but as I said at the beginning of the class, never put a credit card in for anything in this class. I'm providing those so that you can learn the actual technologies. And this isn't just a boring lecture that you sit in and fall asleep. Okay, I want to make it interesting. So you deploy a database, and what it has is it has these, oops, gosh darn it, it's so touchy. That gesture is just so touchy on Mac. Okay, so you go through and you create this database server. Okay, it's going to give you here, once it's created, it's going to have, you can't really see it because it's so small, but if you look at this on your computer, you'll see it. You'll have a username and password on the right here. Okay, this is what I said. Mine is different than yours. But when you're done, it will pop up a screen. It's very important you save that screen because trying to explain to you how to get back to it after you've done it is very complicated. Take a screenshot, write it down. I recommend just taking a screenshot of it because what if you write down the numbers wrong? Okay, if there's a number or letter, okay? You're going to use that to connect to the database later, so it's very important to write it down. Okay? But once you've done that, you can actually connect to it using a couple of different ways, but the way I've done is a very simple way that on that screen, there's a way to connect to it, okay? You connect to it and it's going to use the command line. There's no easy graphical way to explain how to do this lab, okay? But you're gonna log in through the command line and I've given you the commands that you run throughout this lab. So if you wanna tackle this one, you can do that. I'm actually gonna show you my own system here in a second, but I wanna just show you this. You've got the password. There's an example of what the password is, so you know where to look for. And then you just go through these steps and you run these commands. And what happens is you then get into the database, you're inserting data and you're pulling data out as a query, okay? It's an advanced database lab. You're welcome to do it if you want. Now let me show you mine, okay? So I actually have databases out in Amazon and in Google. So I use both for different purposes. Okay? So I can go out and I can request a database right here in class and I can create one and it shouldn't take very long to create, okay? So, well, I guess if you're all watching YouTube right now, then it'll slow down the internet in this room, but it's what probably is what happened right now, okay? So I've got this Google Cloud, okay? And I can go in and I can create new instances. So I can go up here to the box here, just like in the lab. Someone's watching Netflix. Okay. There's this thing called Marketplace. I can get free, ready to go things like databases, web servers, WordPress, Wix, whatever it might be. I can get free things that are already set up. Okay. And the one that I use for this demo is called Bitnami WordPress. It's in the lab. Okay. And it's right here. Okay. I just click on it. This is again in the lab instructions. I can say I want to launch it. I'm in the wrong project. We're going to redeem my code. So you get to learn how to do that code because I don't have any more codes on mine. So we go into our email and we get the code. So mine's sitting there waiting for me. I never got around to redeeming it. So you get to learn how to do that as well. There are other labs, by the way, in Google. So if you choose some of the other advanced labs, there are other labs that you can do with your coupon code, all right? So I go into my email and I pull up the code from Google after they've sent it to me. And this is what it'll look like. And Chris, have you shown up yet? You're here, okay. Do you want to go ahead while I'm doing this and talk about Tableau stuff? You want to show your slides? Okay, I'll introduce you. So this is Chris. He was a former student and he is now the Tableau rep for the campus. So I'll let you, with the HDMI? Okay. He is with Tableau, and Tableau is one of the labs that you can do optionally. I recommend it. Tableau is being used in business a lot. Okay, it's a great product for visualizing data, and I'll let him speak some more about it and some of the opportunities students have here on the campus. So. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot it. That'd be helpful. There you go.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So as Professor Underhill mentioned, so I'm actually currently still at UCR in fourth year, and I am Tableau's student ambassador. So let's go here. So yeah, so I'm student ambassador. I am actively trying to bring Tableau software opportunities to UCR, whether that be through workshops. I'm going to be teaching our course strictly on the data usage and application of Tableau. So I know a lot of people have a misconception of like, oh, it's an analytics software. That's only what people in IS should be using. But in reality, you could be using it in finance, operations, marketing, literally anywhere. And I really think it's important for a lot of us to know and understand data. And a fun fact about me, over the summer, I did an internship in Southeast Asia. I played a lot of Mario Kart online in my free time, and I got board games, so that's pretty cool. If you guys want to come after, we can try to set up, some kind of like competition. We can race each other so you guys can learn how to properly lose in Mario Kart. So whenever I give these presentations in classes, I really like to start off with this quote. It was in one of the Economist articles. The world's most valuable resource is no longer oil, but data. And just kind of take that in, let's say 50 or 100 years ago, everyone was fighting over oil, wanting to discover oil, because oil was, that catalyst that enabled all these machines and all these technologies to propel business forward. And now it's data. You all sitting here, if for whatever reason you got lost and didn't know where this room was, you put in Google Maps, and Google Maps led you here. And now Google knows that you're here, Like, everything that you do, if you wear a smartwatch, or you just have your smartphone and you're on a computer, you're creating data. You're giving yourself that identity outside of who you are personally. You're giving all these companies information about yourself, and they're using that to propel their business. So, that's again, anything that you do, you're creating new data. Hold on, guys. Okay. So in 2018, LinkedIn did a study. So these are the top 10 data skills that recruiters looked up on LinkedIn. And so you could go read them, but spoiler alert, the top, within the top 10, two are statistical analysis and data mining and data presentation. Both are exactly what Tableau specializes in. So, I don't know, whether you're doing any kind of analytical work or any kind of job really in the future, you're going to need to know these data skills because these are what recruiters are looking for. And later on, into segueing employer demand. This is a study done by PwC last year, and it actually showed that 69% of employers are expecting any kind of candidate to understand data. And only 23% of the schools can actually say, oh yeah, our students are actually going to know this. So luckily we go to a school, Professor Underhill, Professor Rich, they're doing a really great job with the IS program. If you want to learn more, feel free to come by our course next quarter, or you can take, I think, Business 101, data analytics. We talked about, we use Tableau a little bit, like Microsoft pivot tables, but still, this is just really something that's important. And if you just look at LinkedIn, I swear, 9 times out of 10, the preferred qualities, they're going to say, have some interest or some understanding of data. Because I was an ambassador and I have, a pretty good knowledge of how to use Tableau. I was interviewing for a BI position at Esri, and I didn't even realize, but I was like on one of the final rounds, and I looked back at the job description and it said, we want people who have 2 to 3 years So yeah, so higher education response. As you can see through the timeline, more schools are trying to teach information about data, and I've said it a million times already, but it's super important. At 2010, more schools are teaching about data, and luckily we're at one of those schools. And then I guess the last slide is more about talking about data. So we have qualitative, ordinal, and categorical. So quantitative is something that you can calculate, talking about weights, costs, and discounts. Ordinal, that's more of like things in order, so you want to go goals over products, excellent, good for. And then categorical, you can categorize things in, similar manner. So in the talk, we're talking about continents in North America, Europe, Asia, Vietnam, and such and such. And then, if you want to know more, you're going to be doing a lab. Is it extra credit?
And well, there's 5. They have to do 5 labs. They choose from 14, and the extra ones are extra credit. So if they do more than 5, it's extra credit. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I expect all of you to do at least the below one. The more downloads I get, or if the school gets, the better credit I get. So helping out here. But, quick little tip. You can take a picture of this if you want. If you want, it's under no, but it's kind of just talking about the effectiveness of being able to visualize different kinds of data. It's pretty common sense, I guess. It's easier to show the difference in fixed positioning than it does in color saturation. Color saturation, you do have like that pound key like 0001 and pound key 92533. I don't know what color that is, but you can differentiate the colors in that way too. And then Tableau also gives me like these slides where we can like watch a video and show about like Texas Rangers, RVs, and like all recipes uses Tableau, but personally I think they're a little boring. But the Texas Ranger one's actually pretty cool. They have like a little preset visualization that shows all the seats in the stadium and it connects to like the weather and such and such. But the cool thing is that in the video they talk about when they think it's going to rain, like a 90% chance it's going to rain, or whatever the day they don't play baseball. It shows the people how many people are actually going to buy tickets, the projected analysis and how many people actually did and how many are throwing over time. So it is really powerful. Literally anyone in any industry can use Tableau. I went by that really fast.
Okay.
Do you have more to show?
I have more to show. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So if you want to know more about Tableau, feel free to stay after the class. We can talk up here or in the lobby if you want. I can show you some visualizations. I know I have one about finance, taking analysis on different kinds of stuff. So if you guys want to take a look at that, feel free to find it. Thanks.
Okay, we are going to show you how to do this. All right, so pull this over here so you can see it. Okay, so I've got a coupon code here. I've gone to the website that I got in the email and I just pasted into that field and say accept. And as long as while I was doing that, no one used my code, it should work. All right, so now you can see I have a credit there on the right, okay? $100, because I have a bunch of classes, that's why I have more. You guys, $50 would be fine for you, you use it for. All right, so now that I've got that credit, what I can do is I can go into here, like I was gonna do a second ago, and I can go ahead and create it. We won't get it done today, but I'll show you it, and then next time I'll go through and actually use it. So you can actually see what this would be like if you did the lab. Okay? It's pretty simple to get it set up. It's the challenging part's actually getting into it, and hopefully by me showing it in the next class, that will lower that fear factor for folks, okay? It'll be a little bit more approachable for you. So I'll go out here to the marketplace again. I'm gonna search for Bitnami or B2B. And the reason for that is, let me explain why I'm doing that. Bitnami packages up software into a very easy to deploy. It's just like push a button like on my DVD player and boom, it starts playing, okay? I don't need to figure out how to set it up. I don't need a technical degree, okay? And I know that I'm not doing it this quarter, but last quarter that I taught this class last spring, I did have everybody in the class do it during classes and in-class lab, and you might think I'm crazy, and maybe I was crazy, But all 300 people in the class who showed up that day were actually able to get it up and running while we were in class. So it's not impossible to do. I just felt like it might be a little much, and there's a lot of other things that we're going to talk about. Okay. Speaking of which, while this is going, I just go through and I click on things. That's all I have to do. I'm going to say launch, and I choose where I want it. It doesn't really matter. You guys will only have one project if you do this lab. Okay? It doesn't really matter where I put it at. Okay? And then boom. No credit card required. I don't have one on file. Okay? And in a few minutes, this will be ready to go, and I could, if we had enough time today, I'd get into it, but we'll get into it in the next class, okay? But I want to talk about a couple other things. Number one, the VR stuff, okay? Next week's discussion, we are going to do that in all but one of the discussions next week, okay? So it asked me some questions. I just choose the defaults because I'm a lazy person, okay? It's just for class. It doesn't matter. I just choose the defaults and say deploy, okay? Now, for next week's discussion section, 2 discussions are at 8 a.m., okay? We have not yet drawn the straws yet, but one of those groups is going to do the VR next week. The other group will do it the following week. Okay? Don't know which one yet. I have to still talk to the TAs about it. Okay. If you plan to do that activity, there's a couple things you need to do. Number one is, if you want to do the Google Cardboard where I have a lot of headsets, you need to bring a cell phone. Okay. Unfortunately, the big phones that some people have, the huge giant ones, they won't fit in the headset things. Okay. So I think that about half of those headsets will work with the Apple Plus phones, the bigger ones, but most of them will not. They're too big, okay? So you will need a smaller phone. If you don't have one, that's okay. There are a couple of activities you can do. The other one is augmented reality, where you do not need to put a headset on, okay? The augmented reality and the virtual reality that use the little contraption Google Cardboards, you have to download the apps ahead of time. If you try to do it in your discussion room, there's only like one Wi-Fi router in those rooms. You're all going to hit at the same time. By the time you get out of class, you'll have downloaded nothing. So if you want to try one of those experiences, you need to download it before class. Okay. Now, if you're going to do the Oculus, which there are 9 Oculus headsets that the university has, we will do those on a 10-minute rotation in the groups. Okay. So everybody should be able to do them for about 10 minutes. Okay. Those have everything already on them. They're ready to go. We will do a brief demo for the class in those discussions, and then you'll be turned loose to go do them, okay? The augmented reality, you're going to just use your phone with whatever app you download, and if you like to shop, IKEA has a really cool app that you can try their furniture in the room you're in without actually driving to the IKEA store. You place it, decide you want it. You can actually do e-commerce from within the app, which is a really interesting business case that we'll talk about on next week. Because next week, we're going to talk about the funnest unit, okay? We were in the most difficult unit this week. We'll wrap it up on Tuesday. We're going to move into what I think is the funnest part of this class, where we get to do emerging technologies, okay? Things that are just now hitting the marketplace for real business purposes. We may have used Pokemon Go for playing games, augmented reality for that, but now we're actually starting to have real business applications, okay? So we'll talk about those. Now, if you are, and we'll have the TAs let you know what you're going to do in discussion, but if you're not going to do that lab, you can either work on your project in that discussion, or you can just not show up to that particular discussion, okay? If you're doing VR next week, okay? Only one class of the discussions will not be doing VR next week, okay? And we will let you know on Slack. If you have not signed up for Slack yet, that's part of your grade to post on there. You should sign up. There's like 40 people haven't signed up yet, okay? So make sure you're on there. If you're having issues, come to office hours, all right? So go ahead, we're done. And I have to jet, so if you want to help with transcription, come outside. I'll be there for 5 minutes, and then I've got to head out of here, okay?